Hey everyone, it's Jimmy from Internal here. And today we are covering part two of our tutorial series on HTTP requests. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to set up a detail view here. And now what the detail view is it's a way for you to basically pull back data for a single data record. So this lets you use this resource in a detail component, and it also enables, auto-linking your records within a table or a card list so that users can access that record view. So let's take a look at how you would do this. So similar to the list view, you're going to build out your HTTP request. In this case, we're also hitting this writer's path, but in order to pull back a single record of data, the way our API works is if you provide /writers and then /the ID of a writer, it will send back that singular data record for that ID. So what we want to do actually here is create a variable called ID to account for that. We'll fill in the value for ID later. We want this returned as a JSON response, and then we will just hit next. There's nothing that we need to do in the transformer here because this should actually come back in the correct format. And then before we can actually preview, we need to fill in a value for ID since it was a variable. Let's use 123, which is a valid writer ID for us. Hit preview, and then you'll see great. The data looks good. You'll see that this is the correct writer information for writer ID 123. Let's pop over to the attributes tab real quick. And here you'll see that ID has been added to our list of attributes, and Internal has identified this as the primary key. It is what uniquely identifies this record. Let's make sure to go ahead and just update our attributes here. Make sure everything's looking good and up to date. And now let's save our resource. Alright, now that we've set up the detail view for our resource, let's take a look at one of the ways that we can use it. So let's go back to the space that we've set up for our HTTP resource. Alright, let's go to edit the space that we've created here. And now let's go and actually add a detail view. So since you've set the detail view up, you will now see it within the list of resources here. Let's just call this the writer's detail view. And now one of the things that you'll want to set up to, figure out what is the ID of the record that we want to display is to add a filter and say that if once the ID is equal to a value in an existing component, and where that value comes from the writers table, the selected row in the writers table, and then the ID in that writers table. So basically this is saying fill in that variable ID that we had before with this ID that's coming from the ID column from the writers table. And now we hit apply. Now let's save our space. And you can see you've now got a detail view that's hooked up to your resource as well. And so you can see the detail for that particular record. And that is it.